Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards embracing your worthiness and creating extraordinary success? I am your host, Allison Lacusier, a certified professional coach, a professional speaker, and a female founder. As a passionate advocate for women's empowerment, I've dedicated my career to helping individuals like you unlock their true potential, cultivate unwavering confidence, and live a life aligned with their deepest desires. With years of experience in the coaching industry, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible transformation that occurs when we tap into our worthiness and step into our power. Throughout this podcast, I'll be your guide, sharing insights, tools, and strategies to help you navigate the path towards unshakable self-confidence and fulfillment. Drawing from my own journey as a successful business owner, I'll provide you with practical advice, actionable steps, and thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders. From overcoming self-doubt to setting and achieving audacious goals, we'll explore a wide range of topics designed to empower you to embrace your worthiness in every step of your life. Through these engaging interviews and solo episodes, I'll share my experiences, lessons learned, and wisdom gained from our remarkable guests who've achieved remarkable success in their respective fields. So if you're ready to leave self-doubt behind, step into your authenticity, and thrive as the empowered woman that you are, then this podcast is for you. It's time to claim your worth, align with your purpose, and manifest the success you desire. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this empowering adventure. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Clearly Worthy podcast. It is Allison Lacusier here, your host, and I have the beautiful, wonderful, amazing guest, Samantha Jones, joining me here today. How are you, Samantha?
I'm so good. I'm so honored to be here, Allison. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. And we are going to dive right into your genius today because I got to experience your genius a few months ago. We met for the very first time and ended up having one of those lean in, tell me more. Oh my gosh, we are best friends designed to know each other for our entire lives kind of conversations with each other. And I'm just so excited to be able to dig into how you're serving the industry and most importantly, how you're serving the moms who are entrepreneurs in our industry. So if you can go ahead and just introduce yourself to our audience, let's get started.
Yes, absolutely. That was a lunch not to forget. So I'm super grateful that we had tacos together that day. It was wonderful. So I am Samantha Jones. I am not the character from Sex and the City, which I get a lot. That is not me. I am a speaker, an author, a coach, a mom, a wife, a woman. I am many things I wear many, many hats. In our industry, I have the great pleasure of working with many practice owners. Most of them are women who are really experiencing that balancing act of womanhood, entrepreneurship, and in a lot of cases, motherhood. So I try really hard to address the challenges and the balancing act that we face as female entrepreneurs in our industry, because I think that's important. And I think it's important to talk about.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely agree. And today I want to talk about the and, because I think as women, often we almost get put into this like bucket of it's business or motherhood. It's motherhood or you're going to focus and strive in your career. And even just our quick, 30-minute conversation, I got just a taste of your vast knowledge of how you have successfully been both and how you've had fun with it too. And so I would love for you to just share like, what are some of the most important aspects of being a mompreneur?
Yes, I love this question because I think it's important for us to kind of get vulnerable and talk about what it takes for it to have the and, not to just feel like we have to have one or the other, or we have to sacrifice in one space or the other, because we really don't. I think though, at the heart of that, it's really important that we recognize that in the middle, the and is actually like us, right? We're in the middle. We're on both sides of, motherhood and entrepreneurship. And this might sound a little cliche, but really putting focus on self-care and a sense of self-practice is critical in being able to accomplish the and. and in full transparency, Allison, I don't think I realized this very well early on in motherhood. I just focused on the two sides of it. I was very focused on my children and I was very focused on my career. I sort of forgot about that really important component of both of those things, which is me. And it was through some incredible people around me, and also some hardship, that I recognized and realized that I really needed to create two practices in my life: a self-care practice and then a sense of self practice, where I really had some indications of when I was being pulled into my other identities. I'm Savannah's mom, or Jordan's mom, or I'm the manager or the consultant or whatever. And then being able to recognize that that was sort of taking over, and I needed to have that sense of self practice to be able to come back to center.
That's so powerful. And it's sometimes it's crazy how we have so many components of our life, and we often can get pulled into like some of them. More of the majority of us goes into maybe our work life or our mom life, and having the ability to really step back a little bit and remember who you are, what you need, allows you to do those things so much more successfully. But I see, and I would love for your thoughts on this in your experience, of course. I see a lot of women, moms and not moms, get into this cycle where they're just busy being busy, and they're in this almost like overwhelming burnout stage. And it's so hard. It's almost like you feel like it's counterproductive to take
Mm-hmm.
a step back, and you're like, I can't slow down. I can't afford to slow down, but like that's the only thing you need. How do you get out of that? How do you prevent it? What do you see when it comes to that kind of cycle of that pull and being able to take a step back and really remember who you are and focus on yourself?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And again, just being vulnerable here, I've been that person where I've been so engulfed in my busyness and all of that I've made excuses to not take care of myself. So that has been me before. And what I can tell you is that I do believe it takes a lot of practice to and commitment to recognize when those moments are happening, when we're making those excuses to protect our chaos. And why are we doing that? Where is that coming from really? Like, where is it really coming from that we're protecting that chaos in our lives? And I think that just awareness is what our biggest advocate can be in those situations, because I genuinely believe, I mean, I know in my own life right now, I have a lot of things going on, and I'm still an active mother, and I can still find myself being pulled into that overwhelming busy space, busy, 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 busy. And it's just the time that I've spent developing awareness around what that feels like, what's happening somatically, what's my body doing when am I not feeling well? Do I feel tired? What are the signs that I'm receiving from my body and the universe that's saying, Sam, stop, hello, like it's time to slow down and turn around and take care of self. So I think it's practice, developing awareness and listening to what's happening in our bodies and what the universe is telling us.
It's so important. Oh my gosh. And I am the type of person where I'm like, I hear you, universe, but I'm not going to stop. And I like, and it does. Sometimes it takes me hitting a wall to be like, oh yeah, the consequence of this is so great. I don't want to do this anymore. And so, if anybody's listening and they resonate with that, like, don't make yourself wrong if you haven't listened. But I think there's a power, like we have access to this greater power within ourselves, within our own minds and our own abilities to serve when we take care of ourselves. Like that's when we access it. And I think it really is almost reframing what it means to be successful or busy or have time for ourselves. So what are some of the practices that you do that really help you do this?
Yeah, well, mine are actually very sort of logistical. When I feel myself in those spaces, for me, a lot of it is somatic. I feel it in my body. When I start to enter into those spaces where I'm taking on too much, I'm too many things, I'm, approaching that burnout or overwhelming feeling, for me, my reaction or that emotional stimulus typically happens internally in my body. I'll get a stomach ache. I won't be able to sleep. My appetite changes. And so I've really learned to listen to what's happening in my body. And then I address my body. So I will, make sure that I increase my exercise and I'm paying close attention to what I'm eating. That to me is like the simple way to take care of like the physical vehicle that's taking me to the places I need to go. But also what that does in turn is it triggers this mindset that I am important, I am worthy, and I need to take care of this physical vehicle. And I also need to manage the mindset that's telling me these crazy stories that I need to keep going, or that I have to do all of the things and I have to do them perfectly. And when that happens, I will pop into the physical aspects of it, and then breath work. Breath work is probably one of the most easily accessible, life-changing, life-giving tools that we have. And for me, it changes a lot in those moments where I'm experiencing those overwhelming feelings of all the things.
Oh my gosh. Something that I'm just so impressed with is like, I definitely struggle with this personally. And I know I coach and work with a lot of women that do as well, where we almost detach ourselves from our bodies, where, it can be from ignoring our bodies for so long, or putting ourselves into positions of like, diet restriction. Um, Almost like instead of thinking like how good can it get, it's almost like how much can I bear? And
Yeah.
I see that a lot with a lot of women. And so how did you, and how would someone start to really listen to their body? Like if you really feel like, in my yoga class when I took it in Bali, my teacher said like we cut ourselves off at the neck. Like we live here, but there's so much that our body is telling us that we're not listening to. And so how do you start on that journey to just start to pay attention and to notice like, what does this mean? And it's important.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we've all probably experienced high levels of stress, right? And I think that the way that you begin to recognize where your trigger points are in the body is by paying attention to your high stress moments. So for me, I began just really deeply paying attention to, okay, here I am, like today is Monday. I've got this insanely long list of things to do. And then I really try to focus and recognize what's happening inside of me right now as I'm
Mm,
looking at this laundry list of things to do. So it's about looking at your life and then looking back and figuring out how is that and how do I feel like physically right now? How do I feel looking at those things? Do I feel excited and good and ready to go and I got this? Or do I feel like, whoa, like I can't do this. This is stressing me out. I don't know how I'm going to accomplish any of these things. And when you can figure those two things out, you can start to pay attention to what's happening in your body. For me, it's a racy heart.
mhm,
It's irregular breathing. It's me like forgetting to breathe. And it also produces things in my shoulder. I had issues with my shoulder forever. And I know now when I'm experiencing heightened sense of stress or a lot of things to do that are leading me down the burnout path, something happens in the shoulder. And so to me, it's paying attention. Like it's really just about how do I feel? And then
mhm,
what's happening inside of my body. So we are
mhm,
sort of tying the heart and the mind together to try to recognize those triggers. So when they creep in, then we create our resources and our tools to combat or overcome what's happening somatically in our body. How do we take back control over
mhm.
what's happening there so that we can focus and move forward appropriately, which doesn't always mean attacking all the things on your list on Monday. Like maybe I eliminate 4 of those things because I just can't do it Monday. I can't. I'm gonna
Mhm.
figure out another time to do it.
Wow. That is, as you were talking about that, I was I'm like, am I breathing? Like, should I breathe? So good. It's such
Isn't
a
it crazy
good,
how we forget to breathe sometimes? Like we
oh
really
my
do.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
I was working with a client recently, and that was literally our whole conversation. It was like we need to stop And we need to remember that right now we just need to breathe. And that was
Mhm.
kind of the homework, is like, instead of talking about accounts receivable today, let's talk about how we can manage what's happening emotionally and physically in our body, because none of you're going to forget everything I say if we don't first get in sort of this emotionally stabilized space. So it's really important. That
Mhm.
was amazing. We should always learn some breathing techniques.
Yes, and just be in a good space. Like, sometimes I think when we are really in our, like, masculine energy, that, like, kind of drive, push, succeed, data, KPIs, like, that energy, we almost look at, like, breathing techniques and yoga and meditation as, like, something that's, like, fluffy or not going to, move the needle forward. But when we can realize, and I've experienced this in my own life so many times, where when I'm out of that, like, push, 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 I actually get things done faster. I'm more creative. I'm more compassionate. I feel better. I'm more excited. Like, I bring out my best ideas. And so, something that I always tell my clients, and I remind myself, is that your highest paid priority is to start your day and stay in a really healthy and positive energy, so that when you're tackling and accomplishing these things, you're coming from a place of your highest power, rather than coming from a place of, like, lack and struggle and just get through it. And sometimes it's worth letting go of the to-do list in order for you to go and create that space for yourself, so that you can come back at it even easier.
Yeah. I could not agree with you more. And honestly, this is why I think we connected so quickly, so deeply, is because yes, to all of those things. And I just deeply believe, I could tell you a million different times when my solution of, mental resiliency and emotional, stabilizing emotional stimulus and mindfulness has been labeled as fluff. And what I think is so important for us to address here today, and I'm so grateful that you have a platform where we can do this, is that that's just a fallacy. Like, that is a fallacy of some social conditioning that we just need to let go of. It's okay. It's not
Mhm.
fluff. Actually, mindfulness is very much a part of neuroscientific studies. We can ask your brother. Mindfulness is based in science, and it's a tool that we can all access at any point in time. And to ignore that and to call it fluffy is a disservice to the human existence. It really is. And so it's okay to accept that and not call it fluff, and work within it, because the magic does happen there. We really do have
Mhm.
clarity when we're able to create mindfulness and mental resilience strategies to help us move through those chaotic, overwhelming moments.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I think you and I could probably talk for, like, days and days on this, around the where we're getting our beliefs from and where we're getting our thoughts from, and how we can't just believe that what we think is true. Sometimes there is this concept that one of the, let's call it, the voices in our head kind of emulates, like, the manager, the dictator. I've read it in many different psychology literatures or books, like Positive Intelligence and things like this, where we've kind of, like, labeled that person that's in our mind that causes us to think that we're not safe, we're not successful, we're not worthy if we're not doing 100 things, or if we're not more disciplined or working harder or striving harder. And I see a lot of women get caught up in that struggle and that kind of routine of push, 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 drive, drive, drive. And I'm not good enough unless I am. And
Mm,
so it's really thinking exactly what you said, like, where did I learn this from? Like, what
yeah,
what conditioning brought me here? And what is a new belief that actually is going to serve me more? And I love the statement, like, what got you here isn't going to get you to that next level. And we see this in leadership all the time. Like, your discipline and your pushing and striving and overworking may have got you promotions. It may have got you to a level of success, but it's not going to get you to that next level
right.
of fulfillment and joy and being a great parent and a entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
how do you typically help women kind of overcome that, like, manager in their mind?
Yeah. It's funny, you're probably going to laugh at what I say here, but I believe in sort of creating a practice around a lot of these things, because we do have some unlearning to do, right? Like, this is conditioning that we don't even recognize sometimes that's happening
Mhm.
to us. And so in order to, I have found that as a coach, in order to help someone move through or address that imposter or that voice in the head, there needs to be some kind of a practice that comes into play. I've got all kinds of practices. So I actually ask clients to name their imposter, give them a name. Mine is, can I cuss on here? Can I say?
Yes, of course you may.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've named my imposter the bitch. Like when she shows up and I start to hear that voice in my head, I address her like, hey, bitch, like, what's going on, bitch? Like, I want to be able to, and it doesn't have to be that aggressive, but giving that voice a name so that you can call it out, hear it, let it say what it's going to say, because you're not going to get rid of it. That voice is always with us. It's part of our past experiences. It's reminding us of all the things that are currently tagged in our brain, right? It's like, oh, remember that time, like, or remember what that person said. Like those things are being pulled forth into our current actions or our current thoughts. And so naming it and just having that internal dialogue where it's almost like, shh, like, I hear you. I know there's a tag in there that's reminding you to remind me, but I don't need it. I'm creating new past experiences today, and I'm gonna keep moving forward.
It's so important. In my coach world, we call ours the gremlin. And it's because you want it to almost be a monster. Like it's not you. And I think that's if you can have this like one concept of like your thoughts are not who you are, they are not the truth. They are just things that come up. And a lot of them are based out of fear, previous conditioning, past trauma. A lot of this comes forward in that area. And if you can just detach yourself from it and start to question the thoughts that you're having, it can lead you so far. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
So how do you feel that women specifically get to overcome some of the things that that manager or that gremlin or that bitch kind of brings forward in your life? Like that's usually the result of that is guilt, imposter syndrome, feeling a lack of worthiness, feeling, bad about everything that you're doing. And I think that there is, and I've heard this from a lot of my mom friends and mom clients, that like, I feel like I'm failing in everything that I'm doing. And how do we overcome that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It is, because I feel like, guilt is an emotion. So we're never going to escape it. It's always going to be with us. And knowing how to recognize it and then address it constructively is typically what I would recommend to myself, to fellow women, entrepreneurs, and certainly moms. Mom guilt is like a real thing. And I just want to like point out that I also have a dog that I'm like, this is like my fur baby, right? And I have mom guilt with my dog also. So like,
I do too.
if you're a fur baby mother, it's a real thing. Like if you travel like us, like mom guilt, like it's there for your furry friends as well. I think that, for me, guilt is one of those things that, again, I've learned to kind of put something into practice to help me move through it. And the way that I manage my guilt, which will always be a part of my life till the day I die, I'm convinced, is that I look at the choice or the choices that I'm needing to make. I decide if I'm making the right decision, right? And I look at how my decisions are going to impact the people around me. And if at the end of that progressive thought, I'm able to be proud of the decision or the movement that I'm creating, then I give myself permission to release the guilt that was told to me by the bitch in the beginning that I just need to let go of. And I think when I do this, sometimes depending on the circumstance or situation, whatever I'm feeling guilt about, I'll have a real conversation with the person I'm feeling guilty with. So if it's one of my children, if I have a my daughter's a volleyball player, one of the reasons that you and I connected. And I was invited to come to an event next weekend. And the event meant a lot to me because I'm up for a couple of awards. And I also recognized very quickly that date coincided with one of her first high school volleyball tournaments of this season. And immediately the guilt just rained upon me. Like, seriously, like, and the very first thing that I did was I laid down my own desires and I said, you know what? I'm not going to go. I'm just going to come to, I'm not going to go. I can't believe this is on the same day. I'm not going to go. And then I had this moment where it's like, you know what? I need to have a real conversation. This is meaningful to me and I want to be there. And so I sat down with my 16-year-old and I said, hey, listen, I have this thing on this day. It means a lot to me, but you also mean a lot to me. And I want to be there for you too. And I just want to know how it would make you feel if I did this instead of that. And by just involving the people that the guilt impacts in the conversation, sometimes we can move through that guilt with this recognition that we shouldn't have even felt it in the first place. Because the first thing that my daughter said to me was, "Are you crazy, Mom? Like, it's just the Sunflower Slam. It's no big deal. You better go to your deal and you better wear that dress and you better take a lot of pictures." And suddenly that conversation made me realize that the bitch was wrong. She didn't even need to feel that guilt. So I think that guilt is one of those things that we can maneuver with in so many different ways, but sometimes it's as simple as involving the people that guilt involves into the conversation to see if it's legitimately reasonable to even have it.
Oh, wow. That is so powerful because after that guilt comes, we can sometimes feel resentment and we can sometimes feel like deeper shame or, if we continue to like foster these limiting beliefs in our own mind and we don't even know the story because it relates to someone else and how they feel and we're making assumptions, then we're really like living in our own worst nightmare only because we're not taking the steps to kind of like unearth it or debunk it or figure out what really is happening here.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Oh, I
Right.
love that. I'm so glad you brought up your daughter because that's where I wanted to go next. Like, I remember being a teenager and I don't think I was the nicest teenager to my mom. Like, we had a rough time. We're really close now, but I remember you telling me, you're like, oh man, being a mom to a teenager is so fun and it's so easy. We have this beautiful relationship. And I was like, tell me more because there's this dialogue. I think that we kind of associate with teenagers like they're so hard. They're like, when I have a teenager, it's going to be so rough. And you were like, no, I have such a great relationship. It's very respectful. And so I know that doesn't just happen by accident. Like you created this, you designed it, you did the things for yourself and for your children and for your family that allowed you to have this relationship. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about that and, some of the things that you've done in order to really facilitate that powerful relationship.
Yeah. I have heard so many times, oh my gosh, you have a teenage girl. I'm like, yes, and it's amazing. And I'm so grateful to be able to say that. But I do have to say that both Savannah and I have worked hard to cultivate a relationship that is healthy and meaningful and joyful. And I should say, I want to make sure I point out, I also have a 23-year-old son, and we also have a very beautiful relationship with the same dynamics. And I think at the heart of, I think what intuitively came to me through some of my own experiences, being a child, and just, the way that I became a mother, I felt really I took it very seriously. Like I wanted to take my job as a mother very seriously. And so I really thought about it. Intentional parenting is what I craved. And for me, at the heart of cultivating that is that we have to remember as parents that they are people. Like they are not us. We are not them. They are not us. They are their separate own unique, beautiful being. And if we start there, then we can remember that when we meet a unique individual or another individual at all, it takes curiosity and communication. It takes understanding and patience. It takes consistency and openness and a willingness to be self-reflective when you are in relationship with someone else. And that does not waver with our children. I think one of the biggest things that has helped me cultivate strong relationships with my kids is my willingness to be self-reflective. So even though I have to walk that line of the disciplinary, plus the fun mom, plus the provider, plus all those things, with also having deep, meaningful, open relationship,
Mm-hmm.
there's a dynamic that comes into place that we forget to be self-reflective. Like we don't have a guidebook as parents. I mean, there's a lot of really great parenting books, but every kid is different. And our ability to just be human as parents and vulnerable as parents and say, whoa, I'm sorry, I yelled at you. I did not get that right. Like I screwed up. I should have said this instead. This is my expectation from you. This is how I should have approached this with you. Can we start over? Can I try again? Can you forgive me for, being emotionally stimulated in that conversation? It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect as a mother. I am by no means a perfect mother. I have not gotten it perfectly right at all. But I've been willing to go back when I've felt like, when you're in conflict with someone. And in those moments, if I'm willing to go back to that, my child, and say, what happened? How did we get this wrong? Can we start over? Here's what I would have said differently. That willingness to be self-reflective changes the game as a parent. It takes the pressure off because we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be willing to go back and figure out how to do it better the next time. And eventually, it gets easier and easier. When you're in conflict, you learn, just like most people in any relationship learn, how to be strong communicators, how to have understanding for one another, how to be patient, how to be consistent, how to have openness. All of those things become more natural once you develop that ability to learn who we are as individuals.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. As you were like telling me this, I was like feeling this like sense of like permission and like excitement because it's so true. Like we put this like pressure on ourselves that we have to behave in a certain way. And if we don't do that, then, all of the guilt, all of the shame comes at us. But that true courage to, again, be vulnerable, to step into, to lean in to that conversation and admit that you're wrong, like that's all we get to do in that moment. And it's so powerful. You've brought up the theme of vulnerability a few times. And I would love for you just to speak more to it because it seems to be like a solution um, that can kind of come in many different avenues as a woman in business, as a mom. Tell me a little bit more on your thoughts on vulnerability.
Oh man. I think that vulnerability is one of the keys to a fulfilling life. I genuinely believe that. I think that we're scared of it as human beings because we are worried about judgment. We're worried about what other people think. We're worried about failure. We're scared, all those things. We know why vulnerability is scary. But to me, all of my greatest moments, all of my biggest successes, all of my leaps have been because of vulnerability. I think that this is where I'm going to say this very carefully. This is where I believe women can really change the world. I think that we have a natural ability to lean into vulnerability with a little bit less fear. And I feel very vulnerable even saying that. Because I don't want to exclude our dude friends, because I have met plenty of amazing vulnerable men. But I have met so many women that are willing to just get real with me and share their true experiences. And it's amazing what happens when we do that. It's amazing how that creates a sense of community, because what we forget without vulnerability, like when we're not vulnerable, that is a very isolating place to be. That is where loneliness and things of depression and certain things can really take hold of someone. And I just believe that vulnerability can create amazing pathways out of darkness, out of confusion, out of isolation. it's a problem solver. So if vulnerability is something that's scary to you and you're listening, I hear you and I honor your fear. I am one with that. But I'm here to tell you that on the other side and through the tunnel of vulnerability is really amazing stuff. And you're not alone. It won't feel like vulnerability once you just let it be, get it out, make it happen.
Mhm. Oh, yes. Yes. And I think that women, especially, like we are hardwired for like, I don't know, men too, but women just there's next level love that I think we have. It's one of our superpowers. It's one of our greatest gifts. I think we're so designed to love and, care for others and ourselves. And when we can create almost a sisterhood or a group of women that are just absolutely in support of each other and have each other's backs and cheer for each other, they like magic happens. And I
Oh,
have
Matt.
been so grateful to have women in my life who just immediately like love on me, support me, uplift me. And we do that by being vulnerable. We can't know who we are if we're not vulnerable, if we're not willing to speak our own truth. And again, yes, it is very scary. And I, for way too long, stood behind a mask, pretended everything was fine, everything's great, everything's perfect, I'm so fine. And you don't connect with people that way.
You
It's
don't.
and you think it's harder to actually be vulnerable, but there is a huge sense of relief and
Yeah.
peace when you show up as you are and you are loved as you are and you're accepted as you are. And so, yes, I think at the end of this podcast, if there's something that's on your heart or there's something you want to say to somebody or share, our biggest shame is the ones that is the area that we hide the most.
Yeah.
So when we can unearth it and talk about it and feel again like we're not alone,
Yeah.
magic happens.
It's
Magic.
total magic. It's total magic. And it's courage. It's so brave.
Mhm.
It's such a brave practice to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
That to me, I growing up, I was always labeled as sensitive. I was very sensitive. So Sammy's so sensitive. And I'm like, I started to wear that label with shame a
Yeah.
bit because of the context of it. And as I have gotten older, I have recognized that it most certainly is my superpower. My ability to be sensitive, empathetic, vulnerable it's absolutely a courageous superpower.
I 100% agree. I remember watching Brene Brown's vulnerability lecture. I think I was like 19 at the time. And at the time, I remember very clearly having a mentality that strength means you don't show that you're hurt. Strength means you don't say if you're sad. Strength means that you button it up, you like wear a shield and you move on with life. That's strength. And I remember her podcast or her TED talk actually broke my brain a little bit because I was like, wait, like vulnerability is strength, vulnerability is courage, vulnerability is the hardest thing to do. And yet it gives us the best results. So, man, if you can do one thing to
That's it.
unearth and feel like more courageous and more self-love, it is vulnerability.
Yes, I totally agree. Completely.
Well, I'm just so grateful for you and for everything that you're doing in the industry, for the bright light that you hold for women and all people in our industry. And I'm just so excited to learn from you and get to know you even more. And if this podcast, if you're listening and this resonated with you, please go ahead and share this podcast with women, with anyone in your industry or in your circle that would benefit from this. And Samantha, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about how you work with them?
Yeah, thank you. They can reach out to me via email and we can hop on a call and chat. My email is Samantha at createwise.com, and that's spelled CRE, the number 8, WISE. Or you can come check out my website, which is createwise.com. I'm on all the social media channels, so you can find me there as well. And I want to thank you, Allison, for reminding all of us that we are worthy, and for really just pushing that message forward with such passion and grace. I'm so grateful to have crossed paths with you. I love how we can come together as women and link arms and find our tribe and help other women to move forward and find that fulfillment and remember how worthy they are. And so thank you for the work that you're doing.
Oh my gosh, it's my greatest joy. And I'm just glad I get to meet people like you along the way and learn so much from you. And thank you for teeing up our last question, because I'm excited to hear what you have to say for this one. We finish all of our podcasts with this question, and grateful to Care Credit for sponsoring this question and for believing in this movement of women in business, women in dentistry, women feeling worthy of whatever they want in their life. But I want to know from you, this is a kind of a finish the sentence statement.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave it up to you. And it's women are worthy of, and you finish.
Women are worthy of believing that they can accomplish whatever lies in the deepest part of their mind's eye. They're worthy of dreaming it, they're worthy of achieving it, and they're worthy of having it.
Mhm. I got goosebumps when you said that. Thank you so much. Oh, you guys, Samantha Jones here. What a leader. What an inspiring woman in business, mom, all of the most amazing, amazing things. Thank you so much for your time today. Again, please share this podcast, share this message. If you have something that you want to chat about, please reach out to us. We are here for you. You're
Yes,
not
for
alone
sure.
in this journey. You are not alone in this journey. And we will see you on another episode of the Clearly Worthy podcast.
We love you, friends.
Bye.